This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
While large circuits such as Road America and Sebring can sometimes steal the show with internationally known series holding events there, it can be easy to forget the grassroots. Summit Point is a nice throwback to that, and considering the smaller size and power of the Spec Racer Ford, today will provide a change of pace. It's back to club-style racing as we get ready to watch Round 6 of the Weekend Warriors, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Stefan Schlacker. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Steph, compared to the last 3 rounds, Summit Point is a bull ring of a road course. Thankfully, I'd say these SRFs fit perfectly with this track.
Yeah, exactly, Joe. It's just a perfect fitting. It's no wonder why SCCA did do so many races around this 10-turn, 1.98 miles circuit. Just think about the top of the circuit with those very tight turns where you really need to know how to use your Spec Racer Ford momentum to your advantage. Not only that, but also you have to use that on-throttle understeer to your advantage through the wagon bend, and maybe, just maybe, be able to avoid the ever so daring ether, which is just after trees here. However, Spec Racer Ford, known for the draft, that won't play too much of a role here today, as the longest straight is only extremely short here today. But what perfect way to start off a race event than our GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we're in the GSRC SRF, so let's do a lap around Summit Point. Down the front stretch, this will definitely be your best place to try and overtake. The only thing is, everyone else knows this too, and will probably go defensive early. A slipstream could help you try to get ahead, but if you're on the outside, you'll probably want to try and over-under. The understeer this car experiences means coming off of 2, if you outgun your opponent, you could beat them to wagon wheel. And though you often see battles coming up to this corner, it usually isn't an overtaking spot by outbraking because it's swift and off camber. This is what they call an error-inducing turn because of how precise you have to be. Avoid getting your wheels into the gravel, and from off there, you get a short breather until 4. You'll need a lift to keep the racing line and help line up the braking for yard sale. It's very easy to outbrake yourself or simply lose control coming into here. This now starts the technical back half of the course, and you'll need lots of throttle control through the carousel and the S's. The off-throttle oversteer and on-throttle understeer make it a balancing game. Ideally, you'll want to set the car up for a better entry for the following corner by hugging the inside on the previous exit. That eventually culminates into turn 9, where it's very marginal on if you can take it flat out or not. And every little ounce of speed will matter here because you don't want to be vulnerable into paddock bend. As fast as this turn is, it makes side-by-side racing not only dangerous, but hampers your exit speed horribly. And since it takes you back onto the front stretch, you really don't want to be left under attack. But hopefully, if you've kept it together, you've now finished a lap around Summit Point. That should certainly show you just how quick it is to make a lap around here. But real quickly as well, we want to remind you that the Weekend Warriors is brought to you by Sim Stickers. Whether it's button boxes, steering wheels, or keyboards, they have you covered. You can find out more at simstickers.co.uk. Big thanks to them for sponsoring this season here of the Weekend Warriors, which has had an interesting championship, and it's going to get a little bit more interesting today. As even though it's Daniel Sadro up at the top, we have had Gaspers join us at the very last second here in qualifying. That's becoming a bit of a habit with him, and he's won every single round that he showed up for so far. Let's see if he can continue that today. Elson has yet to win, but he's could still come into things if he gets some good results. He hasn't the last few rounds. McAreevy and Regalado round out your top 5 of the Spec 1. We also have 2 championships here. The Amateur Championship is Spec 2. Steph, how's that sitting?
Well, Nico Schuk is leading that one through ahead of Bob Kerr, 19 points between the two, and then once again equal distance back to Edward Doherty, 28 points. He is behind in 3rd place. Tom Gradwell brings up 4th place ahead of Gary Walpole, just 51 points behind Nico Schuk. Now 51 points might not seem a lot, but this is Spec 2. They're not too often within the top 5, so that is already quite a distance up to Nico Schuk.
And if you've never watched this series before, well, first of all, welcome. But here's what we've got in store. We are in round 6 out of 12, so after today, it will mark the halfway point. They've limited the fuel compared to what these cars have in real life, so this 40-minute race does feature at least 1 pit stop because of that. They also have incident points, penalty points essentially, for the incident points that they gain. For every 10, they lose 3, so they'll have to keep it clean. You can get a few off tracks around here. And they have a spare car waiting for them, so if they get damaged, they can duck in and take that. Thankfully, it's a short lap, so it should be a little bit easier to get around and grab one of those if you do get damage. As always, we like to remind you to take a moment to subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network where you're watching this right now. All you got to do so is click on the big red button that says subscribe, and then you'll get all of the Weekend Warriors in your YouTube feed. Qualifying has been underway, and interestingly, Adam Bradshaw is up on the provisional pole. It was David Gregorio up there for a while, followed by Billy Bob Wright. Gaspers is here today, and he's just coming across for his 2nd lap. That should be more representative, and, well, look at that. Onto the pole with only his 2nd time, his first really flying lap that he's had. So that'll displace Adam Bradshaw pretty quickly.
And by the way, a little bit of championship implications for the Spec 2 classes. Nico Schuk elected to not turn up here today.
In fact, our Spec 2 provisional pole sitter is Zach Rivard, who topped the timing sheet in the warm-up here. So a little bit of a surprising development for him. Clearly has been quick. We usually don't see him that far up the front, but he likes his track, it seems. Let's see what the Michigan driver can do over the course of a full race.
Yeah, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, that's where you mostly expect your Spec 2 drivers at the end of the race, if they were lucky. But in qualifying, 7th place for a Spec 2 driver, that is really quite uncommon, especially at a tiny and twisty track like we have here at Summit Point.
Billy Bob Wright was another one who was very quick in the warm-up. The number 49 currently sitting in P5, just below Michael Shaw. And one thing I think that they're probably going to be happy about this week is compared to Suzuka last week, the laps are so quick. I'm seeing a number of drivers managing to rack them up pretty quickly as we're watching Dobek just beneath him in 6th place outside of the 3rd row come around for what will be his 10th time lap here in qualifying. A lot of times being able to iterate like that can allow you a better chance at managing to get up to the top. So let's see what this one is as he takes it all the way to the edge. That's one of those spots where you can get those off tracks just in that gravel trap. And he comes across the line. It's a 21 flat as his quickest, and this looks like that was a slow one for him, so he must have had an off somewhere. Brett Holton as well was, I believe, second. So they're 2nd or 3rd in the warm-up. Number 11 sitting in 8th right now and towing along Dominique Bureau. I'm wondering what the passing is going to look like because you mentioned that the draft isn't as powerful at this track. So if you were out there in the Spec Racer, what spots would you be sizing up?
It would still be turn 1, let's be honest here. Turn 1, maybe turn 5, you could do something there through the right-hander and then into the very tight left-hand hairpin. But yeah, no, it still is. Like, yes, the draft isn't as powerful, but it's still going to help you into turn 1. And if you're good on the brakes, you're always going to get something done into there. Maybe last turn, if you're a little bit desperate, you can do something there too. But then, once again, you have the long, under quotations, long straight ahead of you into turn 1.
That was Bureau giving a nice toe to Holton there, but it still didn't allow him to go quicker. He's going to go around the outside, so this could be a fast one here as well, as that front stretch should allow him a quicker pace in both cases. Loki John down there in 19th is coming across to see if he can improve on that 21.8. And the answer is no, must have had an off track somewhere. Worth noting as well, Steph, I'm looking at the times, and Gaspers not only took the pole on his first time around, but he's 0.2 quicker than Adam Bradshaw. That's actually a pretty wide gap for a track this short.
Yeah, it really is. Adam Bradshaw known for being fast in qualifying, so a little bit surprising that apart from his 20.9, the next lap that he got close to that is a 21.1. The 20.9 driven in the third lap, and the next fast lap was only in lap 9. So a little bit surprising by Bradshaw. Let's see what he does in this lap. It's 22.3, so not fast for him this time around once again. Will be interesting to see what the others can do.
Yeah, especially with the time ticking down now. We're less than 3 minutes left, so the opportunities are getting fewer and fewer. Gasper is going to come around for his third timed lap, as the last one did not count for him. So let's see what this holds for the number 23 and current champion. Not going to be quicker. That only a 23.6. And it's not terribly hot today. It's only 86 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface, 71 degree air temperature. So pretty good conditions, even with it being a little bit sunny. Now, this is a lot sunnier than what we had before. It was relatively cloudy out and dark during much of the warm-up. You can see that has changed significantly. Mark Gehan, he comes across, and that lap does not count for him. So the 21.8 stands for the number 225. This is an incredibly narrow track, and you can see from a lot of our pictures just how thin it is around here. Very much an old school track. It has since had a lot of additions in real life. There's, I believe it's called the Shenandoah course, the new one that they've built out there that isn't quite here on the service yet. Would love to see it, although I understand it's more, at least for hot lapping, than it is for racing.
Yeah, not only that, but also the Jefferson circuit got a little bit longer, actually by quite a bit longer, around the skidding plate and skidding circle and stuff like that. It really is nowadays a full-blown driving center, not only a motorsport circuit.
Love to see that growth, especially in that part of the country where don't usually associate it with road racing, out here in the middle of West Virginia. Adam Bradshaw still trying to do better than that second place and that 20.9. Haven't had an improvement from Gaspers either, for what it's worth. This is coming around the carousel, the technical back half of the course. Very single file through this portion before finally out of the S's, you get a little bit of a long straight. But the thing that I always found interesting is, as long as this straight is, it heads into an area that's, well, not really much of a passing spot.
Well, that's just the story of the track. There isn't really any passing spots that really look to you as, or a shout to you, yeah, I'm a passing spot. But no, there are passing spots around here. You can still do something through the carousel. You just have to really work and really set up that passing zone if you want to make something work through there.
Well, let's see if David Gaspers, who's not worried about passing, can make it quicker. Well, no, he can't. He's going to practice his pit entry, which can be tricky on its own as he takes it right to the edge. Nearly running out of grip coming through there, and ends his qualifying with a checkered flag now coming out. So who do we have to first be across the line here with that flag waving? Looks like it is Ian Haycox in the number 35. Up and down, and it's actually past the pit exit. A bit of a unique finish line here, and that is not quicker for Ian.
Next up over the line will be Aaron Fugely, so let's see what he can do. Sitting 13th right now, 21.4. Doesn't improve there with a 22.4.
Does not. And then after him, it looks to be Tom Vanderpoel, who is in 26. He'll definitely want to try and do better, but he does not because he has a lap that does not count, so must have been off track somewhere along the way. What about Samuel Dick? He's last on the timing boards in terms of drivers who have gotten a time down, and he's being trailed by Adam Bradshaw in second. Dick improves to 21.7. That's 21st for him. And Bradshaw is actually bumped instead as Elson was behind him and goes on to the front row. Garante goes to 29th with that last lap. Dominique Bureau does not improve. I think that might be just about everyone. Solbloom coming across now. He's now the last car with a lap time. And he will be the last car with a lap time because he does not improve. We've got a few that didn't get times down. In fact, everybody is now finished with their qualifying. So let's go through that starting order for today in round 6, just to take us into the second half of the season. David Gaspers on the pole with his first flying lap and never needed to improve. Steve Elson got a little bit closer, but not close enough, still 2/10 behind. He'll be starting in second. Adam Bradshaw with a very quick lap, but couldn't repeat it and get close to that the rest of qualifying. He'll start in third. David Gregorio will be P4. Then it's Michael Shaw starting in fifth. Billy Bob Wright not looking quite as strong here in qualifying as he did in warm-up. He'll start sixth position. Michael Dobeck was seventh in qualifying. Then it's Zach Rivard in P8. Brett Holton starts ninth. Rounding out your top 10, surprisingly low for him, Miroslav Juracek.
The number 35 of Ian Haycox will start 11th place. Alongside him will be Edward Doherty, 2nd place in your Spec 2 grid, 12th place overall. Aaron Fergale, 13th and 3rd respectively overall and in class. Jeff Jacobson, 14th. Dominic Bureau will be lining up in 15th place. Paulo Brem, 16th. 17th will go to Ramon Regalado on the grid. Hugh Haycox will be running out row number 9 in 18th place, and 10th row will be set by Loki John and Bob Kern.
Samuel Dick starts in 21st. Mark Geehan behind him in 22nd position. Tony Schuch will start P23. Then it's Alex Asner in the 24th spot. Tom Gradwell behind them in P25. To his outside is Julio Vercolen in 26. Tom Vanderpoel, we saw his final lap. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. 27th for him. Will Daly in 28th, and Enrico Garante in 29th. Matt Solbloom, the last of the cars with a time, in 30th. And then from there, it's all drivers who didn't get a time down. Jerry McAreevy, unfortunately coming in a little bit late today and finding himself 31st. Ryan Walker, 32nd. Emil Orza, Joe Aguilar, and Joaquin Martin Arnalds will round out your 35-car field here today. I don't believe that Aguilar is in the session, so it might wind up being 34 drivers instead. Just waiting for them to start off on the pace lap. Then we'll get going for 40 minutes here in round 6. This gives us a good sense of just how long of a run it is down this front stretch into the first corner. Hopefully we won't get too messy of a start breaking into this turn. With it being such a thin track, it tends to unfortunately have 3 wide situations not turn out well.
Yeah, 3 wide with the Spec Race 4 is about as much as you can manage without having to have 2 cars on the green stuff or on the gray stuff. So 3 wide can work into turn 1, but you really have to settle it out at least 2 wide, or maybe even just 1 wide out of the turn. Otherwise you are going to run into some problems. If you're on the outside 2 wide, then you will also run into problems, because that outside, for some reason, it really loves to grab cars and never let them loose again.
And now they come up to 4 and 5. The turn 5, the left-hander of this sequence, I always love Kevin Brown, one of our former commentators here, dubbed this one yard sale corner, just because of drivers that wind up off into the grass to the outside you see there when they get tangled with one another. This is another, I feel like, first lap danger zone here, Steph.
One of my biggest fear about the yard sale is that someone shoots across the grass and then hits someone who is driving right through here. I have seen instances where a car shoots across my nose, but I've never been hit yet. But it still is kind of like your scarecrow of this track.
All right, only one more corner that Mustang pace car needs to take them around, and we get going for today. Could we possibly see Elson take the fight to David Gaspers? In the past, he hasn't been nearly as quick as Gaspers, but you never know. Traffic could be a major issue today. As the pace car peels in, Gaspers has control, waiting patiently, not taking off quite yet. Keeping the field stacked up as they all bunch together out of the final turn, still waiting, going for a long time before they get close to the start-finish line. As now the green flag finally comes out. Gaspers with a decent jump over the field, not wanting to allow anybody to get much of a draft on him. And in fact, look at Adam Bradshaw with a great run to the inside of Steve Elson as they now approach the braking zone into turn one. Bradshaw a little bit deep on the brakes, but not good enough to get on the inside of our leader. One car off course, that's Juracek. Otherwise, it's looking decent in the mid-pack.
Yeah, Juracek was actually part of a 3-wide situation into turn 1, so not surprising to see him go off track as he's still side by side with Brett Holden for that seems to be 8th place now, so he lost a few positions there on that start.
Elson lost another spot in all that mess. That was Shaw who got by into third that you see now in the black and green car. Behind them, everybody coming together as they break for turn 5, but it's looking very orderly, at least for the moment.
Yeah, not a single incident yet, so very heads-up driving by everyone in the field right now.
Back on the long stretch to the final turn. Already we're seeing
Adam on the grass and spins out right ahead of Juracek. Everyone able to miss that one.
Gets it turned right back around, but the number 294 is losing a lot of spots at a track where it can be tough to pass. That does not bode well. He winds up in 29th. Meanwhile, we're watching from Bradshaw's rear. Coming up into the first corner, that's Shaw. Whoa, looking to the inside, locking up the brakes. Bradshaw sending some smoke behind them. And instead of Shaw being able to take advantage, it is now Elson looking to take this third place back.
And he does so in style on the inside. And Michael Shaw with another mistake. That's him on the grass. That's him going through the gravel. And that's Billy Bob Wright going past. And maybe even David Giorgio. Oh, and that's a wreck.
Well, there's one car off into the ether and two of them. Rivard finds himself disappearing and Shaw as well.
Rivard was your leading Spec 2 driver. That has taken quite a turn for him.
Wow, just veered off to the left. Not sure if he wasn't aware there was another car coming behind, and that sent them through the gap where there wasn't any tire barrier. Already, you can see that, speaking of gaps, Bradshaw has lost about 1.5 seconds to our leader Gaspers. Elson still chasing him. Remember, Elson started on the front row, so technically, according to his pace, he should be up in second, and he's going to try and make that happen. He gets a nice run up past Bradshaw, who doesn't defend, into the first corner. Elson a little bit wide at the apex, and he's going to lose it right back as Bradshaw with the over-under.
Maybe even Billy Bob Wright. Let's see, he takes it to the left side of Steve Elson. Will that be 2 lost places in just 2 turns for Steve Elson? Let's find out. And sure enough, that's a touch, and he goes into the gravel.
Manages to save it and get it right back on course, but all these drivers fighting for second place has meant that Gaspers is absolutely running away with things. Behind them, that is Juracek coming back into the 4. He's up to 6 now, just now overtaking Dobek into turn 5.
Right now, it sure does look like 4 in 4 for David Gaspers, but still a long way to go in this race.
As we've seen, things can happen very quickly around here. Once he reaches the lap traffic, that'll be a little bit tricky at times to try and get around it. little bit farther down, there we're watching some of the battles in the mid-pack. This is the 23 of Gaspers on screen, the black and white car coming across to complete another lap. Boy, Regalado and Vegley fighting for 10th now, and that actually might erupt just coming across the start-finish line up to turn 1. That's Vegley to the inside, and the gray car, the blue machine, to the outside is Regalado. Just a bit of a nose ahead for Aaron. If he can tuck it to the inside better than Elson did, and he does, I'd say he's got the spot now.
And because of the misfortune of Zachary Rivard, Aaron is actually the Spec 2 leader, just ahead of Dominic Bureau and Hugh Haycox, who are just behind on Regalado.
Definitely some good fighting. You can see all the dust that's being kicked up on the exit of Wagon Wheel. That corner with it having the gravel right to the edge, drivers certainly cause it to get pretty dirty. Oh, as that was Bradshaw we saw, or no, that was Ian Haycox, excuse me, that was going way wide through turn 5, but doesn't lose a position due to it. Green car of the number 35, keeping himself away from Holton, who trails behind, now being joined by Vegley after his overtake on Regalado. Vegley's getting loose, and he's around. Unfortunately, out of the final corner, he's going to see a lot of the field go right on by before he can get it going.
Drops all the way to 22nd in the field, maybe even 23rd and 24th by the end of this straight, as Julia Forstlin and Bill Daly now also go past him. And yeah, just a little bit too heavy on the brakes, losing it on entry, and that's just sometimes how this one goes. Actually, he dropped the left side wheel ever so slightly on the grass, and that's what actually sent him around.
That certainly doesn't help you get the car turned in correctly. Meanwhile, Bradshaw has been caught by Wright now. I mentioned he was good in the warm-up, and even though his qualifying didn't go too well, he's already on the podium and looking for second place. But there's a train of SRFs behind him, almost making contact. That was Gregorio having to go wide, and he brings Elson with him to the outside of the carousel. Miroslav Juracek the next one, and the caboose is Dobak. Right on board with Juracek. Trying to stay tucked up underneath Elson to give himself an opportunity down into turn 1. You can see all the cars very close together up ahead, trying to take advantage. Everybody plowing through the outside of the final corner, getting the throttle down as soon as they dare to get the best run down into the best place to pass.
All of that happens about 4 seconds behind David Gaspers, as we now have to pass 4th place between Adam Bradshaw and Billy Bob Wright. Billy Bob Wright taking that second place away from Bradshaw, but Bradshaw with the undercut switcheroo, and he goes, or at least tries to go past again.
He's going to force Billy Bob defensive. He's going to be slightly offline now. He can get back to the racing line. Sometimes tricky to go through there shallow with how that turn crests. But through turn 4, can we see a re-attack from Bradshaw? He's close, but once again, a defensive move from Billy Bob Wright, just trying to keep him covered off.
Yeah, that nearly allowed Steve Elson to go to the inside there with a very great braking maneuver, but Steven Elson a little bit too far away from Adam Bradshaw to make that one happen.
You're effectively watching the battle for best of the rest here. This is all for P2. Out of the S's, 6 cars all in a line, not able to get away from one another. Let's see who gets the run this time. Wright managed to get enough of a slipstream on Bradshaw to make that work, but Bradshaw apparently is going to have to endure that again, because here comes Elson as well as Gregorio, but Gregorio decides he doesn't want to try and make it a 3-way battle. Ooh, and Elson having to go very deep as Bradshaw's boxed in by Wright ahead of him. And in fact, that opens the door for Gregorio, thinking about it coming out of turn 2 towards 3. Nothing doing for that as the battle continues side by side into Wagon Wheel, and Elson can't quite get it done.
Yeah, outside of Wagon Wheel is pretty much where you don't want to be, as that always will be slower for you. because you don't have the advantage of the very high curb on the inside, which gives you quite a grip advantage if you take it right.
A little bit farther down, let's not forget we've got battles in the mid-pack. Jerry McAreevy still working his way through. He's recently overtaken Tony Schuch, who's fighting in that Spec 2 championship. He's not our highest Spec 2 racer. That's Dominique Bureau in 10th, well ahead of them. McAreevy's next driver that he's going after is Samuel Dick in the 15th spot, about a second and a half up the road, so he's got a little work to do before he gets to that car. Didn't have any change of position at first. Up at the top. Now we have Elson manages to get by Bradshaw, but not by out-braking him, by out-accelerating him out of turn 2.
Yeah, Adam Bradshaw a little bit hot into the turn, goes all the way to the outside, and as already mentioned, if you're on the outside of turns 1 and 2, you are going to be on a way slower line, because for some reason, that outside just has no grip whatsoever.
And especially in an understeery car, that's bad news. Oh, speaking of understeer, there goes Elson off of the carousel, and he goes all the way not only to the back of the train, but I think he's going to lose position at Haycox. Ian sneaks through, and finally he gets it going before Holton can overtake.
Yeah, that was the oversteer, a little bit too much on the brake there into carousel, and he had to pay the price quite heavily there, as he now is all the way in 8th place.
Watch from on board. Let's look at the hands here. Already doing a lot of corrections. Oh, yeah. Did a good job keeping it from going completely around, but it still was a costly mistake. And did we lose Dominique Bureau here? This happened in the final corner. Oh, this is similar to Aaron Vagley's incident. Except in his case, it looks like the curbs are the culprit. Here we go, watch this.
Yeah, it just takes it too tight there, and then goes all the way on the gravel, snaps it around. Actually, he nearly saves it, and on the 5th, 6th, 7th time, he finally loses it, does a 360, and on his way again.
That was costly for Bureau. Oh, and Elson's off in the same corner.
This time, though, understeer.
Boy, he is struggling with this back section of the course. This time he only loses 1 spot. There you see, familiar territory for the number 56 car. And he is going to take it into the pits. I think, are we actually within the pit window now?
I think we are.
Bob Kern joins him.
Yeah, Bob Kern always is a good indicator of being able to pit already. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that he is safe to go from here on out.
Yep, we're definitely within the window at this point. Past 10 minutes in, usually is where they can manage to pit. So Elson's going to get himself a little bit of clear track and be able to focus on his own race. Let's see if that helps him try to do a little bit better. But Gaspers has not pitted yet, as he stays out and has extended his lead to about 6 seconds. Our P2 battle is coming up on lap traffic now. Shaw, who used to be a part of it, has returned to the track. Shaw's actually, is this for position? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
So he's got to become aware of what's happening behind him. And this will be a good spot for them to be overtaken if they're caught here. But I think Billy Bob might actually be too far behind to try and get them before turn 1.
As Gregorio actually is pitting from 6th place. So that sure is going to shake up that battle if someone tries to react on that.
Solblum's going to let the leaders by, but Shaw is not. Understandable, since he had pretty good pace. Gregorio gets back out and running, well ahead of Steve Elson after Steve's mistakes. Honestly, we're getting pretty close to the halfway point of this race already. Watching from onboard Dobek, looking up ahead at Juracek now. Split up into a pair of twos, with Billy Bob Wright being chased by Adam Bradshaw. That's those two that you see up there, and Juracek being chased by Dobek, right on board with Billy Bob now, looking behind at Bradshaw. Adam looking strong coming through the final turn, closes in fairly well. Doesn't look like he has any intentions of passing right now. He's closing in, and indeed, he's just going to get on the binders a little bit early. Hopefully doesn't get into the back of him. Wow! He's brave to trail right underneath that gearbox that way. Meanwhile, as we look back at Holton and Haycock still fighting for P6, Holton has actually, did he recently get by Haycock's? Yeah, looks like he just overtook him in turn one. Oh, and Jerry McAreevy. Wow, what a steady stream of passes for the 67. He's already up to 10th. He just managed to get by Sam Dick. And Hugh Haycock's the next one in front of him.
And Hugh Haycock is your current leader of the Spec 2 class. So maybe you will fight a little bit with Gary, maybe not, but yeah, it still is where you expect your Spec 2 leader to be, right around the 9th and 10th place.
Wonder if any of these drivers in the mid-pack are going to elect to come and pit, since we've only seen a few duck in. Doesn't look like either McAreevy or Haycox are going to take it this time. Bradshaw is going to take a chance on Billy Bob Wright, though. He goes by, Wright doesn't defend, and lets him have the spot.
Gary McAreevy driving past Hugh Haycock right now as we speak. So Hugh Haycock now in 10th place, that is your Spec 2 leader. Gary McAreevy up to 9th place from a whopping 31st.
Better than I expected him to do, especially this early in the race. Granted, there are a few cars that pitted in front of him. Kern, Elson, and Gregorio. That's still only 3 positions. So effectively, probably around 13th, we're thinking right now for him. Although he's going defensive on Hugh Haycock, not feeling completely safe. Regalato's not too far up the road, but that's not Regalato directly in front of him. That's lapped car's Solblum, which is why he pulls out of the way. Let those 3 go.
Let's actually look at the lap.
And Ian Haycock's off in turn 9. It's the second driver we've seen had an issue there. Unfortunately for Ian, he actually does find the barrier.
Yeah, that was quite a violent impact as well, as you are going to see just way too hot over the curbs and then smacks it right into the tire barrier.
Conveniently, he was right before the pit, so he came in to take his stop. He'll probably get a spare car, and that looks like curb from that onboard, the way it bounced. Just as that also happened, as he had his incident, Juracek came in and is back out ahead of Gregorio, actually. Although Gregorio's got the speed, and this could be an overtake. Let's see if the 84 gets caught. Nope. No, when he outbrakes himself, that allows him to get caught, as Gregorio, who is about a half a second back, is now right underneath him. It all looked good until they had to take a corner. So they go through Wagon Wheel, and they are amongst a lot of cars that are for position who have not pitted yet. That's Asner in front of them. Checking to see where our leaders are. Gaspers is already gone through, so he's not coming in, but Brett Holton will be taking his stop. Holton was just a little bit behind that top group.
Let's
Wonder if we'll see him with Elson.
Have a look at Gary McReevy, who now overtakes Ramon Regalado for a 5th position because of all the guys that pitted in front of him. Still a very interesting feat from Gary McReevy, so fast up to 5th place. Nobody would have expected him, especially him the least.
Ooh, and Juracek managing to overtake Asner, but he's pulling along Gregorio. Can he do a better job into the apex? He does. Gregorio is the one this time who turns in a little bit early and comes out wide. Loses touch with Juracek in front of him. Exactly halfway now. Let's watch on board with David Gaspers, and since he's going to come around for another lap and see what it's like to ride with a master. Traffic making it hard for Gaspers to be as quick as he wants, but that's why he built up the lead that he did.
Yeah,
and Hugh Haycox, well, yeah, there we see on screen, he missed his stall.
And by quite a bit, actually, by nearly a full stall, he missed his pit box, so that is going to add about 2 to 3 seconds to his pit time. Let's see where he pits out next up. That is actually Ian Haycox. So the Haycox is very shortly reunited. Obviously, Ian Haycox, the father of Hugh Haycox. And that is exactly where he will come out as next car. Tony Schuck way behind him as we'll look at the battle between Gary McReevy and Samuel Dick.
Yeah, there's Schuck on screen running 22nd, having finished his stop.
Oop, David Gaspers into pit lane.
Schuck goes around though. David Gaspers, you were right. He is in. Billy Bob Wright does not pit, though, so I wonder if this is due to traffic. Gaspers just feeling now's a good time since he's losing a bit to those ahead. Bradshaw going to join him just as Gaspers gets going.
Oh, Emil Orchard just with an incredible late wreck out of the penultimate corner of this track. No, quite heavily into the tire barriers, actually. He's super lucky to not get stuck in it.
Watching on board. A little bit of grass to the outside. That'll do it. Oh, yeah, he came to a very sudden stop. He hasn't taken his pit yet, so he does have a spare car for sure. And indeed, he's come in. Meanwhile, is this... Yeah, that's Gaspers. That's our former leader there. Stuck in quite a bit of traffic. Samuel Dick in front of him, Ramon Regalado. So if he tried to pit to try and get away from this, well, it didn't work.
Well, David Gaspers, he is right now on track fighting for position. That is a 5th place Samuel Dick ahead of him, right behind him, Ramon Regalado, as you said. So, not the best pit exit for David Gaspers, but I'm pretty sure that both Gary McReevy, Samuel Dick, and Ramon Regalado will soon follow suit and pit in.
Billy Bob Wright has come in. And there goes Sam Dick. That's going to free up David Gaspers. That is a huge relief for him. Billy Bob Wright probably not going to come out near him. And Jerry McAreevy, almost into our leader. And he does get into Regalado, who goes for a tumble. Now, did Gaspers actually make contact there?
On my screen, yes, he very much did. He now has a bent left rear. Let's see on the screen.
He might have got away with just cosmetic damage. Unless that hurts his pace, which I wouldn't expect around this track. We're going to watch Regalado's view.
One good thing we can take from this though is that Gary McReevy was the nice guy and did hold his brake, just not enough to still come to a complete stop.
Yeah. Oh, poor Ramon. If he had landed on his lid, he at least could have limped it around, but that toe is going to be costly in terms of lap time. You can see waiting for his timer to tick down in the pit lane.
Yeah, I think it's a 2.5 minute toe for the full track here. Could be a little bit less though, I'm not sure right now. Either way, Michael Dobeck in from the virtual lead.
Yep, that's going to hand the actual lead back to David Gaspers, who is done with his stop. And a bunch of drivers now coming in. Bream, Vagley, and Doherty. Waiting on Bureau to pit. And I think that's about it, other than a few back markers. Sad to see that great run from Jerry McAreevy come to an end like that. He's taken his spare car. Meanwhile, we're walking. Oh, this battle for position. This is Bradshaw with Juracek and Gregorio. Their fight continues even after the stop. Juracek around the outside of Wagon Wheel. That's a difficult place to hold on, but he manages it, and it would have given him the inside for 4, but unfortunately doesn't have the exit speed that he needs, so they all get single file. After the pit stops are over, I'm seeing Whoa, how did Dobeck get in front of them? Was Dobeck saving fuel, or were they fighting that hard?
Both, because Michael Dobeck, his stop was 11.4 seconds versus Adam Bradshaw with a 13.1 second stop. So, yeah, I would say Bureau not only because of the fighting, but also because of his fast pit stop.
You mean Dobeck, right?
Yes, sorry.
As we get another little bit of fighting here down into the first corner. Juracek's going to have the inside. That's Bradshaw defending in the orange, white, and green, looking maybe for the over-under. He gets a decent launch, but not a good enough one. Has to cover off Gregorio, who's been watching this from the popcorn position back there in 6th. All through Wagon Wheel. This time, though, Juracek managing to stay ahead of Bradshaw. Bradshaw with a little bit of a bump draft. Backs out of it by the time they now break for 5. There's 2 cars that still need to take their stops. Bureau's one of those in 2nd place. Mark Gehan, the other one, down in 19th. Everybody else has been in. And Bureau now ducks in. That's going to hand 2nd place back to Dobeck, who's gradually being caught by Juracek. Even with all this battling that's going on behind him, the pace is good for this group of 3.
Yeah, let's see the last laps of both Juracek and Dobeck. Dobeck with a 21.754 versus a 21.318 of Juracek.
So he's going to have to stay very clean and consistent if Michael wants to get this 2nd place here today. He qualified 7th. And then how about Juracek himself? Qualified 10th, and he's into 3rd. Honestly, our biggest mover, though, might be Bob Kern.
Yeah, I just want to say all of them may be impressive, but Bob Kern, 22 9th place. That is one heck of a drive by Bob Kern right now in pretty much no man's land, 2 seconds behind Brett Holden in 8th place, and about 3 seconds ahead of Ian Haycox, who is the next car behind him. However, all of that happening behind the very lonesome.
Oh no, Dominique Bureau, even though he could go long on fuel, he couldn't make it to the checkered flag without an incident. Looks like his own error coming through Wagon Wheel sent him straight to the tires.
That's I have to say, that is a strange one. You don't see it very often. He didn't hit the grass, just loses it on the brakes and then goes for a wild ride over both curbs. And yeah, very unlucky situations there by Bureau to make him go actually with quite some heavy damage now around the track for a lap.
Yeah, he's limping at this point as we come back live. The 208. Certainly not going to take the Spec 2 win today. Bob Kern is our leader in that group, ahead of Hugh Haycox, who has one car between them. Hugh's father, Ian, sitting in 10th overall. Meanwhile, we're watching Elson and Billy Bob Wright. For some reason, Billy Bob Wright had a long stop. Don't usually have pit stops over in the Lotus 49 series, so maybe still getting a little bit used to those. Whoa! Wow, Elson deep on the brakes and nearly gets into the back of Billy Bob. He's got to be careful about those. Don't want to turn him around. Not missing much up at the front for now. Although, oh, Hugh Haycox nearly gets run into as he gets it going. This is in yard sale.
Let's see what happened there on the replay with Hugh Haycox. There he's already sideways, I would nearly say. Yeah, it happened into the right turn. Just too much curb on the inside. You barely want to take any curb there on the apex and just loses it. Decides to lock the brakes and spin himself around.
We watch from on board Mize, who has to shift over to the left side of the track at the last second with Hugh trying to get it going once again.
Oh, now Adam Bradshaw!
Once again in wagon wheel, he doesn't hit anything. Well, actually, maybe hit here? Oh, he was.
I think he was helped by Miroslav Jurček on the inside there. But I would honestly not put too much blame on either driver. They're just
like
an accident that happens while hard racing.
Well, that honestly sends Bradshaw down to 9th.
Another wreck, this time between Tony Schuch, Gary McReeve and Emil Orsa.
This one in turn 1. And this started with Tony Schuch. Schuch spinning, and poor Orza and McAreevy are sort of just at the wrong place at the wrong time. You'll see right here. And man, there's been a lot of incidents with the curbs lately.
Yeah, that just is the high curbs. You have the very tall, very narrow curbs alongside the Spec Racer Ford, who doesn't really like those curbs, as also Jeff Jacobs now has a spin through wang wheel. We don't need to show it, just a harmless self-spin to the inside on the grass. Takes a 360 and on his way again in 22nd.
There we saw on screen, that was Gregorio just getting by Juracek down in a turn 1. So that moves David into 3rd. They're still not caught up to Dobek. Great news for the 42. I thought he would be caught by now, but everyone's been tangling with each other so much. It just seems like nobody has time to try and focus on him. Now, I wanted to mention a little bit earlier, but worth saying that there's reason to never give up. In 11th spot, Edward Doherty is now in 2nd place in Spec 2. But he might be overtaken by Vaguely, who is right behind him. Remember, we saw Doherty, I believe it was on lap 1, spin out of this corner right here.
It was
way to the back.
Very both of them gained 1 position from their starting grid position, but behind them, Samuel Dick, the 119. He himself started 21st, and now in 13th place.
Ooh, back to the battle here with Juracek and Gregorio. Still going at it. Juracek had contact in this very fashion before, but this time, even though he hit Bradshaw, it looks like he didn't hit Gregorio. Both managed to give each other enough space, but Gregorio can't get the pass done. Down to 6 minutes left to go. Time's starting to run out if you want to do anything. They've dropped off of Dobek by a good chunk. It is 2 seconds between themselves and the second place car. There you can see how big the gap is. That's Regalado back out on track between them, just trying to wrap up his race and see what positions he can scalp. Good run down the front stretch from Gregorio. Juracek immediately going defensive. Not very fruitful, though, as the defense is helpless against Gregorio, who's well passed by the braking zone. Meanwhile, sounds like there's action happening for 8th spot.
Yeah, indeed. Bob Kern trying to do the same thing just now into turn 1 with Adam Bradshaw. Is he able to do it? Yes, he is, but here comes Adam Bradshaw with a big wiggle there. Able to keep together on the inside and even keep his run together. Bob Kern gives it a little bit of a break. That opens the door now for Ian Haycox, taking it to the inside and able to pass Bob Kern without much trouble, I would say.
Ian's got his head on a swivel. He saw the chance and doesn't think twice about it. That's going to gift him 9th place. But can he try and get by Bradshaw now?
Bob Kern, that is also your highest Spec 2 driver, now in 10th place, starting from 20th. So, yeah, 10 positions gained on the grid for him.
Bob Kern still your leader in that Spec 2, but now nobody's separating himself and Doherty. But Doherty's got about 7 seconds to make up to catch him. Haycox really looking back and forth on Bradshaw, sizing him up, seeing if there's something here, and I think there might be. Steph, he's got a great run off the final turn.
Yeah, let's see what he can do. Takes it to the right side, both green and orange cars, but Ian Haycox does it run the inside. Let's see who breaks later. It is actually Adam Bradshaw, but not able to do anything. Will he try the switcheroo once again? No, as Ian Haycox able to close the door.
Nice pass by Ian Haycox. Obviously making good after his mistake a little bit earlier, getting that fresh car and getting back out. It didn't cost him too much time. Bradshaw's going to stick with him, give himself some chances to maybe get that spot back towards the end of the race. I think we are going to be 3 to go. Actually, might be 2 to go. It'll be a little bit tight here. David Gaspers crosses the line. The 23 having led nearly every lap. The only times he wasn't in the lead was during the pit cycle. You can see the damage on his car from the contact that he had with Jerry McAreevy. Not slowing him down. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe it is slowing him down. You know, I'm looking at the gap between Dobek and Gaspers. Wasn't that at 10 seconds before?
It was. Maybe he just has his fuel that tight that he has to save a little bit of fuel because of the damage he's carrying. Or maybe he just says, yeah, no, I'm gonna be good to the end.
Yeah, could be managing the gap. I mean, it's not a significant climb that I think Dobek could maybe overtake him. Just a little bit surprising there. Gaspers was caught by at least some margin. Billy Bob Wright and Steve Elson, and a nice little fight, and that's going to swap around so that Wright is now in 5th.
Once again, the carousel for Steve Elson makes a big mistake there 3 times, a little bit sideways through there, loses all the grip and the position to Billy Bob Wright. Oh, ahead of them though, David Gregorio in trouble now with Miroslav Juracek and Michael Shaw right behind him. Michael Shaw actually giving a little bit of a bump to Juracek, who sends him past Gregorio for 3rd place.
Yeah, remember Michael Shaw a lap down. He had the early incident that took him off track and into the nothingness. Meanwhile, Elson still in a fight here. He tried to give it right back to Billy Bob Wright, and he's gonna have the inside line into Wagon Wheel. Billy Bob eventually thinks better. Oh, and he's off track. Carries his speed, and that's going to give him the inside for 4, but it'll be the outside for 5. How is this going to play out into this corner? It's going to be latest of the late breakers. Billy Bob a little stronger, but once again, not the desired line. And so Steve Elson is in front of him. Now, can he take it through the carousel, though? Right up to the edge. That time he was clean. Up ahead of them, David Gaspers leading the way, taking the white flag just in time here as he crosses the line. With a few seconds to spare. Ooh, I think Gregorio might have another go at Juracek. That third place, the final step on the podium, is not decided, and in fact, he is going to duck it to the inside, but he is a little earlier on the brakes than Juracek.
Billy Bob Wright and Steve Elson side by side into turn 1. They actually did touch wheels going into turn 1 as Julia Forstelin has a little bit of a spin through turn 1. Up ahead, though, that is Juracek on the inside of Gregorio. Both spinning Gregorio into the wall.
All that hard work, and David's going to not only lose third, but give up a bunch of spots. So that promotes Wright and Elson up a position, but they're still side by side down into yard sale corner, and it's the same as last time where Billy Bob does not have anything for him.
Oh, Billy Bob Wright are not decisive enough to stick it into the inside of Steve Elson through the carousel.
We've got to go to our leader, though, because David Gaspers comes around the final corner. And David Gaspers, 4 for 4 now out of every race that he has shown up for. Without Sadro here, this is a huge chunk into the lead. Dobek gets second. Juracek takes third to round out the podium. Elson is just ahead of Wright, but it is awful close. Wright's got a great run, and I'm not sure if he has it at the line. Wright manages to get by him and just barely sneaks past into fourth.
I think Steve Elson was actually out of fuel there because it was awfully slow on the straight.
Haycox with a nice 8th place for himself. 7th place even. Ian Haycox, rather. Meanwhile, is Bob Kern getting a push here? Must have ran out of fuel. That gets him to the line. But disappointment. Our winner in the Spec 2 was Edward Doherty. Now let's take a look at Gregorio's incident here. Side by side into the corner, but line astern through it, and looks like a little bit of oversteer and a snap catch that he overcorrects a little too far. Did they make slight contact as well there? Wow. Nothing untowards there. Let's take a look at Bradshaw's incident, though I don't think we got to see it all. This is with Ian Haycox. They go past Gregorio, down into yard sale corner. Oh, and more contact. Bradshaw getting turned around by the elder Haycox. One of those dangers of trying to battle someone into this corner. Easy to get into the back of them. Might have been netcode, though, from that angle. At least the initial touch. But we'll try and talk to them a little bit later if they come and join us. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around because on screen you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Summit Point Raceway. We just watched round 6 here in the Weekend Warriors, and it was a win for David Gaspers without Daniel Sadro even showing, which means that the point swing is going to be monumentous. Michael Dobeck managed to get a second place from 7th. I don't think many expected that, and he just out-strategized many of those around him to get himself into that position. Miroslav Juracek, who had an incredible battle all the way to the last lap, gets 3rd after qualifying 10th himself. Billy Bob Wright with a 4th place just at the line, about a 10th quicker, less than a 10th quicker than Steve Elson over the course of the race. Elson sputtering out of fuel just to get himself across into the checkered flag. Brett Holton with 6 behind them. Then it's Ian Haycox, who unfortunately made contact on the last lap himself, but finishes 7th. Ed Doherty, our winner in the Spec 2 race today, was 8th overall. He was followed by Aaron Bagley, 2nd in the Spec 2 race, 9th overall. And then Samuel Dick was our 10th place finisher.
Adam Bradshaw having a little bit of an unfortunate situation. Started 3rd, only finishes in 11th. He surely must be disappointed with that one. Not disappointed at all will be the next guy though, Joaquin Martin Nice. 33rd to 12th place. That is quite some impressive racing there, even though he's not our real hard charger as he didn't put in a qualifying time. Paulo Brem started in 16th up to 13th. Next up, Bob Kern leading your Spec 2 race for a long time and then running out of fuel on the last lap drops him all the way down to 14th place. David Gregorio 15th after also mid-race trouble. He lost in total 11 positions there. Hugh Haycock's 16th place went to him. Gary McCreevy, after quite an impressive run through the field, he finds himself in 17th. Alexander Asner 18th goes to him. Emil Orson 19th, and rounding out the top 20 will be Ryan Walker.
Last car on the lead lap was Tom Gradwell in 21st. Then you get into the cars a lap down. Dominique Pierrot could have been so much better for him. Jeff Jacobson in 23rd with Mark Gehan in 24th. Michael Shaw, early problems finding the edge of the earth and falling to 25th. Ramon Regalado 26th with Julio Furcola in 27th. Then you get to cars that are multiple laps down. Matt Solblum in 28th and Tony Schuch, a DNF today in 29th. Same for everybody behind him. Bill Daly, Garante, John Rivard, Vandepol, and Joe Aguilar round out your field. Aguilar did not start today. We have our winner ready to talk to us, David Gaspers, who certainly seemed to have the pace on the rest of the field, but you did have quite an extreme drama there coming along the front stretch there, David.
Yeah, I think Jerry went too wide over the bump there and spun because of it. And after that, I think he hit my rear left wheel in a bad angle, so my steering was broken a little bit after that, and I had to turn left every straight.
We were wondering if it gave you any sort of damage. We did notice that the gap came down slightly. Was that something where you're just managing that bent steering, or did it genuinely affect your pace?
I was about a second per lap slower after that.
Wow. Well, obviously, it was a good thing you built up the gap that you did. This has been an impressive run. You're 4 for 4 out of the races that you've attended so far. What's your attendance look like for the rest of the season, though?
I think we mostly have tracks that I like, so I guess I'll show up.
Well, bad news for those around you, because it certainly looks like you're set for a potential another championship. Again, congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
David Gaspers, winner here today. Another driver that did not panic and kept his towel with him was Michael Dobeck, who took second place today. Steph is caught up with him.
Yeah, exactly. And Michael, talk us through that battle group you were in for pretty much all of the race. How hectic was that to drive?
Oh, yeah, that was really amazing. Actually, during this week, I was nowhere on this track and I didn't have a lot of practice, so I didn't know what to expect. Quali went pretty good, and then I just tried to stick with the fast guys and saved some fuel, and in the end, that worked out pretty well.
Yeah, at the end, about 2 seconds ahead of Miroslav Juricek. Now, you did benefit of a little bit of a kerfuffle behind you. Did you expect that you were able to hold that gap ahead of third place?
Not at all, no. I came out with, I guess, 1.4 of a gap, and I was pretty sure that they will catch me in 1 or 2 laps. But then I saw that they got racy, and yeah, I took my towel and went off.
Well, Michael, next up, a little bit of a different track, just a tiny, whiny little bit longer. It's Bathurst. How you're looking forward to that one?
It's one of the first tracks I've ever raced on in iRacing in the SRF, so I like it. And yeah, let's see how that works out.
Well, best of luck to you, and maybe once again we'll see each other again on the podium.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for all your work. I really enjoy watching the broadcasts, no matter if I'm in it or not. You're doing great. Thanks for that.
Thank you as well, Michael. Second place driver here today. Next up, Joe Peak catching up with Billy Bob Wright.
Yeah, Billy Bob just outside the podium, but that doesn't mean it lacked excitement. You barely got past Elson for the line, but I think it's easy to forget that you two were battling nearly all race long before that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, that was the most fun I've had driving a car in a long time, guys. And I almost feel bad for, I think it was Steven was in front of me because he ran out of fuel on the last lap. But man, we had so much fun trying to catch the guys. They got a little break when we had some problems ahead of us, and just super, super fun. Another fourth, and I couldn't be happier.
I have to imagine. So it seems like you're assimilating into the series pretty well, but next week, with it being at Bathurst, it's going to be a stark difference from this track. Have you had a chance to try it in the SRF yet? I know you've driven it in the 49 already.
Yeah, I love that track, and not unfortunately, but I will be at my nephew's wedding next week, so I will not be racing. So that's not going to happen. Hey, before I forget, I want to say congrats to Stefan. For those of you who don't know, that boy can wheel a 49 pretty well. He had a great race earlier today, and just want to say thanks to the whole community, man. I'm having a great time here. People are super supportive, and just like Daniel told me, this thing was going to be a blast, and it is.
Well, fantastic stuff. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time then, and enjoy your nephew's wedding, sir.
Thanks, guys. Looking forward to watching the broadcast.
That was Billy Bob Wright, fourth place, today. And one last one, we have Ed Doherty, our winner in the Spec 2 race. Steph is going to be talking to him.
Yeah, Edward, it didn't look like you, for quite a long time, that you're going to win that because of your first lap incident. Talk us through that spin. Seems like Edward Doherty has a little bit of issues there on his side. Getting ready to talk to us. Let's give him a few moments.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. There you are. How are you doing, Edward?
Much better than it was about 5 minutes ago. It's one hell of a race, and really surprised even getting a hot top 10. I thought if I got top 20, I'd be a happy camper, but a lot of stuff changed in a hurry there, I tell you.
Well, yeah, you're saying it didn't look very good at the start. Talk us through that spin. What happened there?
I think I got on the gas a little bit too early and pushed out to the left, caught a piece of the grass and headed for the trees. But fortunately, I was able to catch it, get back on track, and then actually I had another off at the on turn 2 on the left-hander when I come up too close behind another car that slowed up. So that's 2 offs in the first lap, and like I said, I don't know why I'm in number 8th place. It just blows my mind.
Well, next up, you won't be so lucky getting away with a spin. We're going to Bathurst. How are you looking forward to that one?
Well, Bathurst is one of this high contrition track like everything else, and I always say to myself before getting on a track like this, just take it easy, get through it. But once the flag drops, all that goes away. So it's a challenging track. It's a challenging car to drive in that track, and but at the same time, it's a lot of fun. It's a great track to drive, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we are looking forward to seeing you on track then.
Okay, well, thanks very much, guys. Appreciate all you do.
Appreciating you as well, Edward, putting up a show every single time he races. This time from the very back, finishes in 8th place, and sadly, Joe, we have to finish our broadcast.
Yep, that's it for today. But we want to thank a few people before we go, especially our sponsor, Sim Stickers, for sponsoring this season. If you want to go check them out and see what the big deal is, you can find them at simstickers.co.uk and see what they can do for your rig. Also, a big thank you to iRacing, of course, for putting us on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe. All you got to do is go to the YouTube page and click the big red button. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today as well. Poor Steph, who's been up for quite a while. Amjad and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Check us out on social media as well. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram, GSRC_Graham. Next race, we mentioned we're going down to Australia. That'll be Bathurst, Sunday, October 27th to round out October. That'll be 3:45 p.m. Eastern when that kicks off. But we also have upcoming races for other series listed on your screen. So check those out as well and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.